Welcome to the final grades of my NFL 2024 draft. Starting up, we have the Arizona Cardinals. I actually gave them an A, taking Marvin Harrison Jr. with the fourth pick in the first round. Best available player, best receiver in the draft. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a generational talent. And just like Larry Fitzgerald, I can see Harrison Jr. staying in Arizona for almost most of his career. And they had 2 first-round draft picks. They had 4 third-round draft picks. They ended up taking Darius Robinson out of Missouri with the 27th pick. I thought that was a really good pick as well, along with Trey Benson, the running back from Florida State. And they really capitalized in their third, fourth, and fifth-round picks, picking up Christian Jones, offensive tackle from Texas, in the 5th round. I thought that was great value there. And just drafting team needs, and this Arizona Cardinals team is young. I think a lot of these guys will end up starting for them, but overall I thought they had a great draft. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, I thought the Falcons had a great draft in the later rounds, but we got to talk about their first round draft pick. At pick number 8, they take Michael Penix Jr. There's no hate, nothing against Michael Penix Jr. I think he's a great quarterback. Injuries and his age are a little concern, but you just end up signing Kirk Cousins, $100 million guaranteed in 2 years. You sign him to a 4-year contract. He might not make it through 4 years. Let's say Kirk Cousins makes it 2 years, right? Michael Penix Jr. is already 26. You might want him to develop that long. But according to Kirk Cousins and his agent, they had no idea the Falcons were going to draft a quarterback in the draft. Miscommunications. I don't know if the Falcons had Michael Penix Jr. on their radar before or after they signed Kirk Cousins. Most likely after, but that pick, it was a surprise to all of us. That's my main reason I'm giving them a D. But other than that, they got great players on the board. Rook Aroro out of Clemson, defensive line. Braylon Trice in the 3rd round. Thought that was really good value there as well. The Falcons didn't have a bad draft at all. I'm just giving them a D with their first pick. They could have got way better players to help out Kirk. I understand wanting to find a quarterback to back up Kirk Cousins for your future. Why not take J.J. McCarthy at 8? McCarthy's 21 years old, a lot younger. You could have him progress, and by the time Kirk Cousins is out of Atlanta, J.J. McCarthy could have been 23, 24. I don't know. I could be wrong. Michael Penix Jr. could be phenomenal down the road, but the Falcons, it seemed they were trying to go the Packers route, except the Packers wouldn't have taken a quarterback with the 8th pick. Like I said, nothing against Michael Penix Jr. I just think the Falcons could have got way better value with the 8th overall pick. Maybe even trading down to the Vikings. Who knows? I don't know. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm actually going to give them an A-. I thought they had a pretty great draft as well. Nate Wiggins at the 30th pick. Thought that was great value. Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. Think he's a phenomenal cornerback. And then they end up taking a tackle 2nd round. And I thought Adise Isaac, edge out of Penn State, getting him in round 3, I thought that was an absolute steal. Adise Isaac, along with Chop Robinson, I think both were phenomenal edge rushers. And Devontae Walker out of North Carolina, I know he had problems dropping the ball, but getting him in the 4th round, I thought that was really good value for them as well. And just their draft, like later on in the board, their 7th round picks were really good, getting team needs, and I thought the Ravens had a great draft. The Buffalo Bills. Might be some controversy with what I think here. I give the Bills draft grade a C. You trade your pick to the Chiefs. Why? Whatever. They had 2 second-round draft picks. First one was Keon Coleman, wide receiver out of Florida State. Think he is a good receiver, but I also believe there's better value with a 33rd pick. The other second-round pick, they actually ended up taking Cole Bishop, safety out of Utah. The safeties and cornerbacks, they didn't start getting drafted till later in the 1st and 2nd round, so I thought there was really great value with defensive backs in this draft. I wanted them to trade up or make a splash on picking a receiver, giving Josh Allen help, and only getting Keon Coleman. They ended up drafting 1 wide receiver from the draft, and Keon Coleman, he's a good player, but just drafting him isn't going to do it for Josh Allen. The Carolina Panthers, I'm also giving them a C. I thought Jonathan Brooks in the 2nd round was a really good pick from them. Jatavion Sanders, phenomenal pick, in my opinion. Thought Jatavion Sanders is a sleeper. He could progress and end up becoming their starter. Getting him in the 4th round was really good. But my only concern, my only reasoning for giving them a C is drafting Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. I think he's a good wide receiver, but I also do believe that Xavier Legette would have been on the board later on in the 2nd round. And taking him in the 1st round pick. The Panthers actually ended up trading up for this pick too. So they found their guy, they wanted him, they got him. So giving them a C overall. I ended up giving the Chicago Bears an A grade. I mean, listen, they ended up getting Caleb Williams, arguably the best player in the draft. They got their franchise quarterback for the future. They got their franchise wide receiver for the future out of Rome Odunze out of Washington. To get to him at pick 9 was an absolute steal, in my opinion. Great pickup there. This Bears offense could be scary with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore. Then even in the 3rd round, they ended up taking a tackle out of Yale for team needs, and I love that. My only questionable pick maybe would have been in the 4th round when they took a punter out of Iowa, but that's just my opinion. But overall, I do think the Bears deserved an A in this year's draft. Next up here, we got my beloved Cincinnati Bengals. I ended up giving them an A-. Amarius Mims tackle. There's a lot of controversy with them taking him at pick 18. Thought it was a good pick. If Byron Murphy or Dallas Turner would have... The Bengals could have traded up for them. I don't think it was completely necessary to. Amarius Mims is going to be a hell of a backup. Bengals should sign Trent Brown to a 1-year deal anyway. So maybe you have Amarius Mims progress throughout the year. The only questionable thing about Mims was his experience of having only 8 games under his belt. This guy is a beast. He's 6'8", over 340 pounds. Guy is a moose. And to have him under the belt behind Trent and Orlando Brown, he could learn a lot in the first year. And if the Bengals, one of their tackles gets hurt, or any of their guards at that sake, throw Amarius Mims in there. I think he's going to help them out a lot. The Bengals love drafting Michigan players under Zach Taylor's tenure. But the 2nd round, they ended up getting Chris Jenkins, defensive line. They needed defensive lineman help after losing DJ Reader. Chris Jenkins brings that rushing defensive aspect to his game. I think the Jermaine Byrne pick from Alabama in round 3 was very good. I think he has a high ceiling. And the Bengals, you don't know what you're going to do with T. Higgins. You needed a receiver, but you ended up waiting until the 3rd round, which is still good value for the receivers, and you picked a good one there. They had 2 6th rounds, 2 7th round picks. They ended up taking McKinley Jackson out of Texas A&M in the 3rd round pick as well. I thought that was very good. I thought the Bengals' 6th and 7th round draft picks were very good. You end up getting Eric All, Iowa tight end, in the 4th round. You end up getting another tight end, Tanner McLaughlin, out of Arizona. You got Mike Gesicki, Drew Sample. We know Drew Sample, he's a good backup. But with these 2 tight ends, you could have them battle out and potentially find your starter for the future. I ended up giving the Cleveland Browns a B-. Listen, the Michael Hall Jr. pick out of Ohio State in round 2 was a great pick. Ohio State fan too. But love Michael Hall Jr. To get him in the 2nd round was a good pick. They ended up getting Zach Zinner out of Michigan as well in the 3rd round. And even in their 7th round draft picks were very good as well, getting team needs. But the whole Deshaun Watson trade in the previous years, I don't care how well they drafted. They didn't have a 1st round draft pick. They didn't have a 4th round draft pick. The Browns did very well in this draft, but I'm still giving them a B- just because of the whole Deshaun Watson scenario. Sorry. Dallas Cowboys also giving them a B-. I thought Tyler Guyan was their guy in the 1st round. There's a lot of speculation that they were going to be very interested in Tyler Guyan, and they ended up getting their guy. Thought that was a good pick. They ended up taking Marshawn Nealon, edge out of Western Michigan, in the round 2 pick. Cowboys actually did end up going with the receiver in the 6th round, Ryan Flournoy, wide receiver out of Southeast Missouri State. Now, I thought the Cowboys drafted pretty well, got team needs, and they didn't really trade up or trade down, and they just drafted players best available for their position. I ended up giving the Broncos a B-, even considering the Bo Nix pick. Listen, their 3rd, 4th, and 5th round draft picks were phenomenal. They ended up getting Jonah Elise, edge out of Utah. Troy Franklin was still available in round 4 out of Oregon. Troy Franklin fell. I don't know why. I think he's a great receiver. The Broncos got a great one with him. They ended up getting a cornerback out of Missouri and Audric Estime, running back from Notre Dame, in the 6th round. Good value down there, down the board. But the Bo Nix, hopefully he does well for the Broncos, but I'm not sure. I still think they could have drafted best available in the first round. Detroit Lions, I'm also giving a B-. I thought they had a pretty good draft. I thought Terrion Arnold was a great pick, 24. Keenan Mitchell wasn't there, but the second best, in my opinion, cornerback was still available, and the Detroit Lions capitalized on that. They ended up taking Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri, with the second round. They're just buffing up their secondary. I love that for them. They ended up taking a safety out of Utah in the fourth round. But overall, I thought the Detroit Lions had a pretty good draft. And shout out Detroit, man, breaking the record, 700,000 in attendance for the draft. That is a record. Love to see that. Next up, the Green Bay Packers. I ended up giving them a B+. They had a shit ton of draft picks, and I thought they capitalized on most of them. Jordan Morgan, though, tackle from Arizona, I thought they could have got him maybe in the second round, probably not. But taking Jordan Morgan there was a little bit of a reach, in my opinion. If they liked their guy and they saw a lot in him, and they got, I do believe the Packers wanted Jordan Morgan and they got their guy. But in the second round, they ended up getting Javen Bullard, safety out of Georgia. Thought to get him in the second round, I thought that was great value. Javen Bullard is a phenomenal player. Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker out of Texas A&M. They got team needs. And down the board here, I even think the cornerback out of Oregon State, Keaton Oladapo, was a good pick for their value down there, and they just ended up drafting team needs. I thought the Packers did a great job. Houston Texans ended up giving it a B. They had 2 second-round draft picks, 2 sixth-round draft picks, and 3 seventh-round draft picks. Would have been interesting to see the Texans trade their 7th and 6th-round draft picks for maybe a 4th or 5th. But I understand, speaking of 4th-round draft picks, they ended up taking Cade Stover, tight end out of Ohio State, in the 4th round. Good tight end. He will definitely be their backup. See how he progresses into anything. In their 3rd round pick, they end up taking Kalen Bullock, safety out of USC. Another great pick, I thought. Safeties really fell in this draft, and I thought Kalen Bullock and Javen Bullard were both of the top 2 safeties, in my opinion. But the Texans ended up taking a tackle in the 2nd round out of Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. Thought that was a good pick. And they ended up getting a cornerback as well in their 2nd round, 42 pick, out of Kamari Lassiter, cornerback out of Georgia. Thought the Texans had an overall really good draft. Might be a hot take here, but I think the Colts had the 2nd best draft class out of the whole NFL. I give them an A+. Getting Latu edge. I know he's had neck problems in the past, but guy is an animal. And taking him, he's going to be a beast. And I'm surprised Adonai Mitchell out of Texas, wide receiver, made it their 2nd round, pick 52. I thought the Colts needed a receiver, and they got a dog there out of Mitchell. Great pick there. I also love their 4th round draft pick out of Tanner Bortolini, inside-outside linebacker from Wisconsin. And 5th round, Anthony Gold from Oregon State, wide receiver. I know he's only 5'8", but he is super fast. I love that pick for the Colts in round 5. Thought that was a steal. They also picked up 2 safeties, one out of Missouri and Auburn in the 5th round. So they drafted team needs. They got some dogs. They got a lot of steals in this draft, in my opinion. And I absolutely loved it. Give the Jacksonville Jaguars a B-, taking Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, wide receiver, in the 1st round, their 23rd pick. I thought for sure the Jaguars were going to take a cornerback with maybe Terrion Arnold or Kool-Aid McKinstry even. But them taking Brian Thomas Jr., giving Trevor Lawrence more help, I thought that was a good pick. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a really good receiver, and he should have gone the 1st round, to be honest. And even the 2nd round, I thought the Jaguars were going to pick up a cornerback then, but they ended up taking Mason Smith, the defensive lineman out of LSU. The Jaguars drafted a lot of LSU players this draft. One in the 4th round as well, Jordan Jefferson, another defensive lineman out of LSU. That one was a little bit of a reach for me, in my opinion, but they obviously were interested in that pick. They also got a safety out of Jarian Jones from Florida State. Thought that was a good pick from them. But they actually didn't draft a cornerback until round 5. DeAndre Prince, cornerback out of Ole Miss. I just thought the Jaguars were going to make cornerback more of a necessity earlier on in the draft, but they didn't. And I thought they had a pretty good draft. Kansas City Chiefs, man. This Xavier Worthy trade with the Bills, they end up taking Xavier Worthy, the fastest receiver in the draft. He has high potential. Is he the next Tyreek Hill? I don't know. He could be. The Chiefs get another super fast receiver, another weapon for Patrick Mahomes, and gosh, I'm still mad that the Bills traded the Chiefs. But it's okay. It's okay. I ended up giving the Chiefs draft grade a B+. Thought they had a great draft. I was on the line of giving them an A- or a B+. Ended up sticking with the B+. The second round draft pick, they ended up taking Kingsley Sumatoa, offensive tackle out of BYU. I was surprised that Sumatoa lasted to the second round, but he did, and I thought the Chiefs got another great pick there. And they ended up taking Jared Wiley. They ended up taking Jaden Hicks, safety out of Washington State, in the fourth round. I don't know how Jaden Hicks made it to the fourth round, but that was a great overall pick for them as well. Next up, we got the Chargers. I'm giving the Chargers a B here. I was on the verge of giving them a B plus as well. Joe Alt in the first round. He's a great offensive tackle. Give Justin Herbert more help. He needs more help, and I love that pick. The second round, they ended up taking Ladd McConkey. I had a feeling Ladd McConkey was going to fall. In my mock draft, I had the Chiefs taking Ladd McConkey. I didn't think Xavier Worthy was going to last to the 32nd pick, but he ended up doing it. Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. We all know him. He is a national champion. He's a good receiver, and the Chargers giving Justin Herbert a little more help there. Then shout out in the fifth round draft pick, they ended up taking Cam Hart, cornerback out of Notre Dame. I really like that pick as well. I think Cam Hart is a great cornerback. And I thought they got good value later on in the fifth round there as well. Los Angeles Rams. I'm giving them a B+. I think the Jared Verse pick in the first round was great. I kind of wanted the Bengals to take Jared Verse, but he also kind of didn't fit their scheme. But I thought the Rams got a great one there. Second round, they even drafted another good defensive lineman out of Florida State, out of Braden Fisk. Thought two great first and second round picks from the Rams there. In my opinion, Zach Taylor and Sean McVay both have similar scouting reports on running backs. They both love taking running backs, elusive running backs from Michigan these past few years. And Blake Corum, taking him in the third round pick, I think that was good value. He's very elusive coming out of Michigan. I thought the Bengals would have taken him if the Rams didn't. So I think that was a good pick too as well. I'm giving the Las Vegas Raiders a B+ here. The Raiders, I'm completely mind blown the Jets didn't take Brock Bowers. I know taking a tight end within the first 15 picks is like, whoa. But Brock Bowers, I mean, this guy's a beast. He's going to be a starter in the NFL, just starting out as well. I think Brock Bowers to the Raiders. I know they just took Michael Mayer last year, but a lot of teams now run two tight end sets, and why not? I mean, Brock Bowers was available. In my opinion, they got a dog out of him. In the second round, the Raiders, I don't know how Jackson Powers Johnson, center out of Oregon, you can move him around, but him being available at the 44th pick in the second round, that's a great pick from the Raiders. They could make him a starter instantly. They end up taking Delmore Glaze in the third round, another offensive tackle out of Maryland. And then going down the seventh round, if you've watched Broncos franchise on my channel, you know Trey Taylor, safety out of Air Force. He has high potential. He could be a backup, or you could throw him in the start, let him progress. I thought the Raiders had a really good draft class. Next up, the Miami Dolphins. I'm giving them a C+. I really love the Chop Robinson pick in the first round. I think Chop Robinson will be a star in the NFL. He's an edge out of Penn State. Their second round pick was Patrick Paul, offensive tackle out of Houston. I thought that was a bit of a reach, but a lot of these teams see things in these guys and their solo workouts and their private workouts that we don't. So take that with a grain of salt. They ended up taking Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia, in the sixth round. I don't know how Malik Washington, he was slept on this draft. Taking him in the sixth round, I thought that was really good value. And keep an eye out for Malik Washington. Minnesota Vikings, I'm giving them a B+. The Vikings didn't have to trade up further than one spot. They ended up taking J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. They got their guy. They wanted him. So many rumors going around with McCarthy, how much the Vikings were going to trade up. The Vikings, if they were going to trade the Chargers for Justin Herbert, if they were going to trade the Patriots for the third overall pick, I think they got their guy. They had 2 first-round draft picks, and at the 17th pick, taking Dallas Turner, edge out of Alabama. I think that was a phenomenal pick as well. Dallas Turner will be a beast. He'll be starting instantly for the Vikings as well. Kyrie Jackson, the 4th round cornerback out of Oregon, thought that was another really good pick. That was a steal for Kyrie Jackson to be available in the 4th round. Then other than that, they had a couple 6th and 7th round picks that I think they just drafted for team needs. But overall, I think the Vikings had a very good draft class. Next up, the team I think that did the best in this draft, I'm giving the New England Patriots an A+. I think, in my opinion, Drake May was the best player overall in the draft, best quarterback overall. I think he's better than Caleb Williams. North Carolina bias, I don't care. Drake May has an arm. If the Patriots can progress Drake May, I think he will be the quarterback of the future for this team. and they helped them out in this draft. Second round, they ended up taking Jalen Polk, wide receiver out of Washington. Great pick there. Third and fourth rounds, they ended up taking inside, outside linebackers out of Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, one from Penn State, one from Texas A&M. They ended up giving Drake May more help in the fourth round out of Javon Baker, wide receiver, UCF. Once again, I don't know how Javon Baker. There were so many good receivers in this class. The Patriots did great, taking two great ones. They got Drake May. They ended up taking Joe Milton, the third quarterback out of Tennessee in the sixth round. I think he'll be a good backup. And I thought the Patriots had the best draft. New Orleans Saints, I'm giving them a B+. I think they had a really good draft as well. Taking Talise Fuaga, offensive tackle out of Oregon State. I think we all know he will be starting for them. Then taking Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama. The fact Kool-Aid McKinstry went to the 41st pick in the draft surprised me. I thought he was going to be one of the top 3 cornerbacks taken. Thought the Ravens would have taken him. But I thought the Saints got a steal with him there. The Spencer Rattler pick in round 5. I think taking Rattler in round 5 was a good pick. If Derek Carr ends up in 2 years, it doesn't end up working out, maybe Spencer Rattler progresses in 2 years and he becomes a viable starting quarterback in the future. We don't know. It could happen. But they ended up taking Bub Means in the 5th round too. Wide receiver out of Pittsburgh. Thought that was a good pick. But overall, I think the Saints did a very good job. Speaking of a very good job, I think the New York Giants did a very good job, giving them an A-. Taking Malik Neighbors. A lot of people were thinking the Giants could take a quarterback. And they could have. I think what the Giants did is what the Broncos should have done, what the Falcons definitely should have done. But taking Malik Neighbors here at 6, he was the best wide receiver on the board there. And Malik Neighbors is a beast. He is going to be a New York Giant for a very long time. Then for the Giants to take Tyler Nubin, safety out of Minnesota in the 2nd round. I thought that was a very good pick as well. Also, Andrew Phillips, cornerback out of Kentucky, take him in the 3rd round. The Giants drafted team needs, and I'm okay with them sticking around with Danny Dimes for another year or 2. You're already paying Danny Dimes. What's the point of just cutting him? What's the point of drafting a Bo Nix type player or Michael Penix Jr. with the 6th overall pick? All the great top 3 quarterbacks are already off the board here. I mean, the Giants could have taken J.J. McCarthy, but I think Malik Neighbors was the best pick for them in the 1st round. Giving the New York Jets a B-, taking Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State in the 1st pick. Thought, once again, this is another tackle that's going to start right off the bat for another team. Giving Aaron Rodgers more help. They end up taking Malik Corley, wide receiver out of Western Kentucky in the 2nd round. They end up taking Braylon Allen. I love the Braylon Allen pick from Wisconsin. I think he's a great running back. Also wanted the Bengals to take him. For him to be available in the 4th round, I thought that was a great value as well. In the 5th round, the Jets ended up taking Jordan Travis. Once again, why not draft a backup quarterback in the later 5th rounds? Try to progress these young guys behind Aaron Rodgers, maybe a year or 2. Maybe Rodgers even has 2 years left. Who knows? But Jordan Travis out of Florida State, quarterback, maybe he can be a New York Jet starter in the future. But I thought the Jets did a very good job drafting this year. I'm giving the Eagles an A- here. Listen, Keenan Mitchell, best cornerback in this draft, in my opinion, out of Toledo. Eagles picking up cornerbacks with their 1st and 2nd round draft picks, taking Cooper DeJean. I had a feeling that Cooper DeJean was going to wind up being a 2nd round draft pick, which he was. He ended up falling off. I had a feeling, and it was true, but I think the Eagles got 2 starting cornerbacks right off the bat, and they really needed it. I thought the Eagles drafted very well later down in the draft as well on day 3. Anaya Smith, 5th round draft pick out of Texas A&M, wide receiver, is very good. Johnny Wilson, wide receiver out of Florida State as well. Getting him in the 6th round was a steal in my opinion, but I think the Eagles drafted very well for team needs. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers. It hurts my soul to say this, but I think the Steelers got an A grade. They did phenomenal. They ended up getting 2 tackles, Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier, one out of Washington, one out of West Virginia with their first 2 picks. They needed help on the trenches, and they got it. They needed wide receiver help as well. They ended up taking Roman Wilson, 3rd round out of Michigan. Roman Wilson, we had a feeling he was going to fall in the draft, but he's a really good receiver. But hopefully Roman Wilson will be a weapon for Russell Wilson or Justin Fields in the future. Never know. And I thought their other 3rd round draft pick, Peyton Wilson. I'm surprised Peyton Wilson, linebacker out of NC State, fell to the 3rd round this late, but he did, and the Steelers capitalized on it. Steelers had a great draft getting team needs, and they got really good players doing so. The Seattle Seahawks, I'm also giving an A. They ended up taking Byron Murphy. I think Byron Murphy is a top 10 pick. This is my opinion, but I think Byron Murphy has the talent to be a top 10 draft pick. And he ended up going 16. I was hoping the Bengals, I don't know how he would have fell to the Bengals, but that would have been amazing. But Byron Murphy is phenomenal. In the third round, I don't know how Christian Haynes out of UConn was available here, but he was in the third round. And the Seahawks helping out Geno Smith. I don't know what they're going to do for the quarterback of the future. They're not worried about it this year. They're sticking with Geno Smith. And even in the fourth round, taking A.J. Bonner, tight end out of Michigan, thought that was a great pick there as well. And overall, man, I think the Seahawks nailed this draft for team needs. And I think a lot of teams did a phenomenal job this year drafting team needs, and I think this draft class is a good one. The San Francisco 49ers, I'm giving them a B. They had really good picks in the second, third, and fifth and fourth rounds, but the Ricky Pearsall pick in round 1, once again, maybe this is their guy they wanted. Maybe he was phenomenal in private workouts. Maybe they saw something in this guy that we didn't. For Ricky Pearsall to go in the first round absolutely shocked me. I thought there were definitely better receivers available other than him. But Niners got him. But I think the Niners capitalized in the second round, getting Renardo Green, cornerback out of Florida State. Hot take, I thought Renardo Green's the third or fourth best cornerback in this draft class. And for the Niners to take him in the second round, I thought that was an absolute steal. They ended up taking a tackle, Dominic Puni out of Kansas, as well in the third round. And other than that, I mean, the 49ers had a really good draft class after the first round, just their first round draft pick with Ricky Pearsall. I think Pearsall's a good wide receiver. I think he would have got taken in the second round if the Niners didn't choose him. But I thought it was a little bit of a reach. We could be wrong. I could be wrong. Who knows? Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm giving them a B grade overall. Graham Barton was a really good pick in the first round. I'm surprised he was available still. They needed O-line help, and getting Graham Barton is definitely going to help that. Chris Braswell, edge out of Alabama, was a great pick for me. I'm surprised he was available with the 57th pick, but he was. The Bucs ended up taking Tyke Smith, safety out of Georgia. And even later on in the draft in the fourth round, they ended up taking the halfback out of Oregon, Bucky Irving. Thought that was a good pick as well for the Bucs. And giving the Titans a B grade for this draft, J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. They took him with the 7th pick. J.C. Latham, he was climbing the rankings with the final mock drafts. He had a great private workout, had a great draft day, and J.C. Latham, great pick for the Titans. They needed offensive line help. They got an instant starter there. In the second round, they ended up taking T'Vondre Sweat. I thought T'Vondre Sweat was a sleeper defensive tackle out of Texas in the draft, but I didn't think he was going to go so early. But the Titans saw something in him. I think T'Vondre Sweat will end up progressing into being a starter and a really, really good defensive tackle. But I was kind of shocked they took him, but they wanted him, and it was a good pick in my opinion. They didn't have a third-round pick. They had a fourth-round pick. They ended up going Cedric Gray, linebacker out of North Carolina. I thought that was really good value for the fourth round. Last but not least, the Washington Commanders. I'm giving them an A draft grade. And the Commanders, with the second overall pick, they ended up taking the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels, out of LSU. Jaden Daniels is going to be really good. Love the pick for the Commanders. I would have loved if they taken Drake May, but they probably didn't want to go with the North Carolina quarterback again like they did with Sam Howell. But their second-round draft picks were very good picks, too. They had 3 second-round draft picks. First one, they ended up getting Johnny Newton, a.k.a. Jerzan Newton, defensive lineman out of Illinois, with the 36th pick. I would have loved the Bengals to take him as well. I'm surprised Johnny Newton fell to the 36th pick. I thought he was a first-round draft pick for sure, but I thought the Commanders got a steal there. And getting Mike Sanristil, cornerback out of Michigan, good value there at pick 50. They ended up taking a tight end out of Kansas State, Ben Sinnott as well, later in the second round. I thought that was a great pick up there for them to give Jaden Daniels a weapon. Maybe Luke McCaffrey finds that extra gear and he has talents like his brother Christian McCaffrey. It could be a good pick, good potential down the line. A lot of these teams didn't get D or C grades. I thought a lot of these teams had great drafts this year. The Falcons, the Michael Penix Jr. pick was very odd to me. That's why I gave him a D ranking. No matter how well they drafted after that, nothing on Michael Penix Jr. once again. I just thought the guy was a second-round draft pick. And who knows, I could be wrong. But I'm going to show you guys this tier list now. This is my final tier list for the draft. I think the Patriots and Colts had the best draft class this year. And just because teams are down here, even the C teams, I think they had a good draft as well. I think a majority of the NFL teams this year had a really good draft. The Falcons even had a good draft. I'm just putting them in D because of the first round draft pick. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.